Michael stood at the head of the conference table, the silence in the room thick with unspoken accusations. His team, usually vibrant and engaged, sat with arms crossed, eyes averted, a palpable wall of distrust between them. Just yesterday, they had been his loyal soldiers, ready to follow him into any battle. Now, after the company's sudden, sweeping policy changes he had vehemently argued against but was ultimately forced to implement, they saw him as a betrayer. The whispers had started. He sold us out. He doesn't protect us. Simultaneously, his phone buzzed with an urgent message from his direct superior, a summons to a closed-door meeting, the tone cold, suspicious. Your team's morale is plummeting. Are you losing control, Michael? Or worse, are you complicit in their descent? He felt the ground beneath him crumble. The very people he had dedicated his career to nurturing, and the leadership he had sworn loyalty to, now viewed him with suspicion. He was caught in a crucible of conflicting loyalties, a lone figure trapped between two fires, with no clear path to escape the inferno. Leadership often demands navigating complex terrains, but what happens when the very foundations of trust, from those you lead and those you report to, begin to crumble? When your integrity is questioned from both sides, and your loyalty becomes a weapon wielded against you. This isn't just a professional challenge. It's a profound existential crisis, a test of character that can leave even the strongest leaders feeling isolated and adrift. We are conditioned to believe that loyalty is a one-way street, a simple equation of dedication and reward. But what if it's a multifaceted, often contradictory force that can trap you in an impossible bind? What if the path to true leadership isn't about pleasing everyone, but about finding an unwavering center amidst the storm of conflicting expectations? Join us as we explore the agonizing truth of being caught between two trusts and discover how ancient wisdom offers a compassionate framework for navigating these profound ethical dilemmas. The tale of Eleanor and the fractured bridge. Eleanor had built her career on trust. As a highly respected director of operations at a multinational tech firm, she was known for her unwavering commitment to her team and her steadfast loyalty to the company's vision. She believed in open communication, in empowering her employees, and in fostering a culture where everyone felt valued and protected. Her team adored her. They saw her as their advocate, their shield against the often unpredictable corporate winds. Her superiors, in turn, relied on her stability and her ability to consistently deliver results, viewing her as a pillar of reliability. For years, this delicate balance held. Eleanor was the bridge between the executive floor and the operational trenches, translating corporate directives into actionable plans while simultaneously championing her team's needs and concerns. She navigated complex projects, mediated conflicts, and often absorbed pressure from above to shield her team from unnecessary stress. She was the embodiment of a leader who had earned the trust of both sides. Then came the seismic shift. A new CEO, driven by aggressive cost-cutting targets, implemented a series of draconian policies, mandatory unpaid overtime, drastic cuts to employee benefits, and a sudden, unexplained freeze on all internal promotions. The changes were announced abruptly, with little explanation or empathy. Eleanor, along with other directors, was tasked with communicating and enforcing these policies. In closed-door meetings, she argued passionately against them, presenting data on potential morale drops, increased turnover, and the long-term damage to the company's culture. Her pleas fell on deaf ears. She was given a stark choice: implement the policies or find another job. Returning to her team, Eleanor felt a profound sense of dread. She tried to soften the blow, to explain the corporate rationale, to emphasize the temporary nature of the measures. But her words rang hollow. Her team, once so trusting, now looked at her with a mixture of disbelief and betrayal. "How could you let this happen, Eleanor? You always said you'd protect us." The questions, though unspoken, hung heavy in the air. The vibrant energy of her department was replaced by a sullen silence, punctuated by hushed conversations and resentful glances. The bridge she had so carefully built began to fracture. Simultaneously, the pressure from above intensified. The CEO's office demanded daily reports on team compliance, attendance, and even subtle signs of dissent. Eleanor found herself caught in a relentless crossfire. Her team saw her as the face of the oppressive new regime, while her superiors began to question her effectiveness, her commitment, and even her loyalty. "Are you having trouble getting your team on board, Eleanor?" her direct report asked, his voice laced with suspicion. "Perhaps your loyalty lies more with your team than with the company's bottom line." The implication was clear. She was failing to control her team, or worse, actively sympathizing with their resistance. Eleanor felt utterly alone. The trust she had cultivated so carefully had evaporated on both sides. Her team, once her greatest strength, now viewed her as an adversary. Her superiors, once her staunchest allies, now saw her as a potential liability. She was a solitary figure, isolated in a no-man's land, with the fires of suspicion burning fiercely from both directions. The weight of this impossible position was crushing, a testament to the agonizing reality of being caught between two conflicting loyalties, with no one left to trust and no one left to trust her. The bridge was not just fractured, it had collapsed, leaving her stranded in the middle of a raging river. Bridge to wisdom. Eleanor's harrowing experience illuminates a profound, yet often unspoken, truth of leadership. The immense personal cost of being caught in the crossfire of conflicting loyalties, where trust erodes from both above and below. This isn't merely a professional challenge. It's a deep ethical and emotional dilemma that challenges our very sense of integrity and purpose. When the demands of the system force us into a position where our loyalty is questioned by those we lead and those we report to, how do we reconcile the conflicting roles of advocate and enforcer? How do we navigate the isolation, the doubt, and the sense of personal betrayal that can arise? Ancient wisdom, particularly Buddhist philosophy, offers a powerful, compassionate lens to examine these wounds, not to erase the pain, but to transform our relationship with it, and to find an unwavering center amidst the storm of conflicting expectations. The commentary, a Buddhist perspective. Eleanor's experience of being caught between the distrust of her team and the suspicion of her superiors is a poignant manifestation of dukkha, suffering, arising from avidya, ignorance, of the interdependent nature of relationships and the impermanence of external validation, and tanha, craving clinging, to the idea of being universally trusted and seen as a good leader by all. The core issue is the suffering that arises when our desire for harmony and trust clashes with the inherent complexities and conflicts of organizational dynamics. The Four Noble Truths of Conflicting Loyalties. 1. The truth of suffering. Dukkha. The suffering is evident in Eleanor's isolation, the erosion of trust, the sense of betrayal from her team, and the suspicion from her superiors. This suffering arises from the gap between her ideal of being a bridge and the reality of being caught in a crossfire, leading to emotional distress and a crisis of integrity. 2. The truth of the origin of suffering. Samadaya. The origin of this suffering lies in the clinging to the idea that one can maintain universal trust and loyalty from all parties simultaneously, especially in hierarchical structures with conflicting interests. This craving is fueled by avidya, the ignorance of anicca, impermanence, of relationships and organizational dynamics, and anatta, not self, as applied to the leader's identity being solely defined by external validation. We mistakenly believe that our worth and effectiveness are contingent on pleasing everyone, and when this proves impossible, we suffer. Organizational politics and power imbalances also contribute to this suffering. 3. The truth of the cessation of suffering. Nirodha, the cessation of this suffering, comes not from magically resolving the external conflict, but from letting go of the craving for universal approval and the clinging to an idealized version of leadership where one is never questioned. It comes from accepting the inherent conflicts in complex systems and finding peace in acting with integrity and compassion within one's sphere of influence, regardless of external perceptions. It's about cultivating upekkha, equanimity, a balanced mind that understands the limits of external control and the inevitability of being misunderstood. 4. The truth of the path to the cessation of suffering. Magga, this path is the noble eightfold path, which guides us in cultivating wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline to navigate such agonizing situations with integrity and inner peace. The Noble Eightfold Path to Navigating Dual Loyalties. Right view, Samadhi. This is the understanding that organizational structures inherently create conflicting interests and that universal approval is an illusion. Right view helps Eleanor see that her situation is not a personal failing, but a systemic challenge. It's the understanding of interdependence, that her role is connected to both her team's well-being and the company's directives, creating inherent tension. Right intention, Samma Sakappa. Instead of intending to please everyone or avoid conflict, the intention shifts to acting with the deepest possible integrity, compassion, and wisdom, prioritizing ethical conduct and the long-term well-being of all, even if it means short-term discomfort. For Eleanor, this means intending to communicate truthfully, advocate for fairness, and maintain her inner compass. Right speech, Samavaka. This involves communicating with honesty and transparency to both her team and her superiors, even when the message is difficult. It means explaining the rationale behind decisions, both her own and the company's, without condoning injustice, and expressing her own position clearly and respectfully. It's about speaking truth with kindness and courage, even when it's unpopular. Right action, Samakamanta. This means taking actions that are as ethical and beneficial as possible within the given constraints. For Eleanor, this might include continuing to advocate for her team's well-being through appropriate channels, even if it's behind the scenes. Ensuring fair and consistent application of policies, even those she disagrees with. Seeking to mitigate negative impacts on her team where possible. Maintaining professional conduct and integrity, regardless of external pressures. Right livelihood, Sama Ajiva. This involves reflecting on whether her current role and the company's values align with her deepest ethical principles. If the conflict becomes irreconcilable and compromises her integrity, right livelihood might prompt her to seek an environment where her values are more consistently supported. Right effort, Samavayama. This is the effort to prevent unwholesome states, like resentment, despair, or self-doubt, from overwhelming her, and to cultivate wholesome states, like resilience, clarity, and inner peace. It's the effort to consistently bring awareness to her emotional state and to gently redirect her mind towards constructive thoughts and actions. Right mindfulness, Samasati. This is the practice of being fully present with the discomfort of her situation, observing her emotions and the reactions of others without judgment. Eleanor can observe the distrust from her team and the suspicion from her superiors, allowing these feelings to be, without being consumed by them. This practice creates space for clear thinking and prevents reactive behavior. Right concentration, sammasamadhi, through sustained mindfulness and right effort, Eleanor can develop a deeper state of mental calm and focus. This allows her to gain clarity on her true priorities, to make decisions that are aligned with her authentic self, and to find inner peace that is independent of external validation or the resolution of the conflict. The way forward: finding your center in the crossfire. When you find yourself caught between two conflicting trusts, the path forward is not about choosing a side, but about finding your unwavering center and leading with integrity. Here's how to navigate this profound challenge. 1. Acknowledge the reality of conflict. Understand that in complex systems, conflicting loyalties are often inevitable. It's not a sign of your failure, but a characteristic of the environment. Accept that you cannot please everyone, and that trying to do so will only lead to exhaustion and loss of self. 2. Define your non-negotiables. What are your core values and ethical boundaries? Identify what you absolutely will not compromise, regardless of external pressure. This clarity will serve as your inner compass. 3. Communicate with radical transparency. Within limits, be as honest and transparent as possible with both parties, explaining the constraints you operate under and your commitment to integrity. While you may not be able to share everything, communicate what you can and explain why certain information cannot be disclosed. This builds a different kind of trust in your honesty, even when the news is difficult. 4. Focus on your sphere of influence. You cannot control the perceptions or actions of others, but you can control your own. Focus your energy on what you can do. Act with integrity, support your team where possible, and communicate respectfully with your superiors. 5. Cultivate inner resilience. This situation is emotionally draining. Engage in practices that nourish your mental and emotional well-being, such as mindfulness, meditation, or spending time in nature. Seek support from trusted mentors or peers outside the immediate conflict. 6. Practice detachment from outcome. While you strive for the best possible outcome, understand that you cannot control it. Focus on the purity of your intention and the integrity of your actions, rather than being attached to a specific result. This frees you from the burden of external validation. 7. Reevaluate your environment. If the conflict becomes consistently irreconcilable with your values, and your well-being is severely compromised, it may be time to consider if this environment is truly where you can thrive and lead with integrity. This is a courageous, not a weak, decision. When the very trust you've built becomes the crossfire you're trapped in, and the ground beneath you feels like shifting sand, what is the true measure of your leadership? Is the isolation you feel a sign of your failure, or a profound invitation to discover an unwavering inner strength that transcends external validation? What if the most courageous act isn't in choosing a side, but in holding your ground, rooted in your integrity, even when no one else seems to understand? The corporate world often demands clear loyalties, but true wisdom lies in navigating the ambiguities, in finding peace amidst the storm of conflicting expectations, and in leading with a quiet conviction that honors your deepest values, even when it means standing alone. If this message resonates with your own experience of being caught between two trusts, share it with someone who might be silently grappling with the weight of similar choices. Let's build a community where integrity and leadership is understood, valued, and practiced, even in the face of impossible dilemmas. Namaste.